This is my Team Associated RC8T. I got it in used condition a couple of years back and rebuilt it, and this is where I left off. It's hard for me to remember exactly where I was, but I think I have a pretty good idea. And in the meantime, I did find, or I would say score, another engine that I can use with it. One of the reasons I was procrastinating on this project was because I needed some servos, but my buddy Joe hooked me up, so run these, see how it does. And this is the engine I'm going to use. I could use this, the one that came in it, but I want to preserve that. So it's always cool to get some stickers. But yeah, this is the engine that we'll use with it. It's already set up with a clutch and stuff, but I think I'm going to go ahead and, this doesn't even spin yet, so I have to look into this, but yeah, so I'll probably replace it and just use what was on this engine. So yeah, that's what we're getting into here. I've got to dismount this engine just so you can clean the mount, decide what I'm going to do. You know, maybe I will just use this, I don't know. But the plan was to use this engine. So we'll see what, but I got to mount the body too. And I've got to mount the servos. So we'll get started on that. So I decided to start by mounting the body. I think that makes the most sense in consecutive order, I guess. Now I'm going to clean the engine mount, decide what engine I'm going to use here. I'm also going to clean the tank. Hopefully there's no cracks in that. I may or may not have an extra one. Another thing is, I had to get some of these. These are extremely hard to find. So I wish anyone luck. I think I used 2 sets. Felt great. So if, you know, anytime I see these, I snag them up. Just something for you guys to think about. I don't remember exactly more than just the wing mount being broken. I think one of the plastics on the old one was cracked and I just couldn't be bothered, so I replaced it. I remember on the old pieces there was some stuff that was stripped out too, so yeah, we'll get this stuff cleaned up and report back and decide what's going to be the powerhouse here. Alright, so I got the engine mount off and cleaned, and figured I'd go over the other things that I got with this engine, and in the meantime to go along with the SH engines, mostly the pull starts. So this engine, actually, I remember getting it specifically because it came with the option to make it pull start. I knew I was going to put it in a truggy or buggy. I just wasn't sure which application I was going to use it in, so I think this is a good application for it. So that's why we're gonna try it out. This is you can get this stuff off A-Main. This is for an 18 They're a small engine. This one's bigger. You can see obviously that this one's bigger. Got one of the springs because I taught myself how to rebuild them, and I've had some strings snap and it's pretty unfortunate, so I decided to get a bunch of extra strings. One of them's different and I'm not sure what the difference is, maybe the length. Yeah, so that's the only one. Yeah, these ones are all the same. This one's different. So you can see the part numbers there, but yeah, so that's the extra stuff I got, and these are the extra things that came with the engine. Excuse me. If you're interested, I'll actually open this up and show you the exploded view. So here's the exploded view and the parts numbers that come with the engine. So if you have this engine, you're looking for stuff to see how it works, this is it. It's the exploded view. Alright, so let's think. Alright, so I can see that. That would look good. I'm not sure what color I'm going to go with on the body, but the other thing is, either engine I choose, I'm going to have to disassemble and clean, just because this flywheel for some reason is bound up, excuse me, and I don't want to just rotate the piston in there. There's something in there, just feels, something about it to me just feels like I should clean it before I start rotating things around. So in order to preserve this, I'm going to go ahead and not use it. I'm going to clean this. It'll be the first new engine I've cleaned before using, so this will be a lesson as well. Things to note, things to look for, yada yada. I'm going to change this fuel line just because I want to keep the theme. Up here I have some new excuse me, I have some new line that I'm going to try out. So I'll keep the clear line going from the tank to the carb, and I'll use some blue line going from the tank to the, or from the exhaust to the tank. Tank cleaned up okay. So let's take the head off of this and see what's going on inside. All right, so the reason the clutch bell wouldn't spin was because the gap between the bearings, let me say it differently, the shaft wasn't long enough, so the screw was binding it as it was being screwed onto the shaft. So that's why it wouldn't move. I pulled the head off and I find there to be a stamp on the top of the piston, which is not something I've ever seen before, but it looks too perfect to be unintentional. So after consulting with Joe and consulting with the Nitro Gang Facebook group, turns out that this is pretty common from SH engines, so it's not anything to worry about. Also, the placement of the stamp doesn't seem to be in a place where it would affect the performance of the engine. So we can go ahead and run this. So I will use this engine. Probably going to switch out the clutch stuff. We'll see. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do until I know that a clutch is going to fit on this. So I think what I need to do at this point is reassemble this engine and then clean and disassemble this clutch system to see what I'm going to do. So I decided to leave the setup that was on this engine there because this old clutch is just more beat up than I anticipated or care to use. You can see it's quite used. So we'll go ahead and run this new setup. Unfortunately, the shaft being short is still an issue. So I'll show you what I needed to find or what I'm going to use in order to solve that issue. It's almost the length of the bearing. I'd say it's like a fifth or 4/5 left exposed of what the length is. So after digging around, I found some parts that I could put together to make it work. I don't know where this came from, or it looks like a Team Associated part, but I'm not sure. This is from some sort of axial spacer, probably from some links or something. Or it just found its way into that parts lot. But these two go together, and then you put the gaskets. Well, let me show you this. These will go in here like that, and as you can see, there's still a little bit of a gap, so there'll be a little play, and the clutch bell will be able to move back and forth. So to solve that, these two go here, and problem solved. They take up that extra space, and the screw can be put in. And with that screw in there, I already mocked it up. It works. It's not ideal. It's not what I wanted to do, but it's what I have that'll fit. So this is the setup we'll go with. I'm going to use this RTR pipe. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and mount this to the chassis, and then, you know, make the cuts for the body. Then we'll be on our way to mounting the servos. This was my last 1/8 scale spring for the exhaust, and my last extra Traxxas engine mount screws. Gonna have to order some more of those. But we're coming along. So I got the engine mounted, got the servos mounted. Unfortunately, the splines on the servos don't line up with the stock stuff, so I'm gonna have to switch that over, but that's okay. I ended up switching out the clutch bell to the clutch bell that came with this engine, just because the ratio didn't allow it to work. Got the tank and the pipe mounted up. So I also trimmed the body so that the engine will fit, and I chose the color. I'm gonna go with yellow just because I want to have a vehicle I can see out on the track. So I think the next thing to do would be to paint the body. just because the rest of the stuff's kind of easy to figure out. So that's what we'll do next. Got the body painted. I think it came out pretty good. Nice and simple. I will say though, I find that this Tamiya paint will run no matter what the circumstances are. Even though I am an amateur, I just find it to be always running like that. But anyways, that's done. Still a few things to button up underneath there. And I had to redo the wiring for my bump box. The previous owner, it was pretty archaic in there. I don't know what they were thinking. So fortunately I was able to phone a friend, and Joe helped guide me through the process of making sure that I got this wired proper. So I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the parts. Got all the plastic bits on there, and this should be ready for the break-in process pretty soon. So let me get this bench cleaned up, get the box reassembled, and get things tidied up underneath here. And we should be on our way. I had to go and find an air filter. I'm gonna have to buy a few more. I had to borrow one from my Jado, but I also found this flexi cap I had laying around from an old project, so I figured I'd use that here. Got things tidied up underneath here. Just waiting for a battery to charge. I'm charging up my glow igniter as well. Then I'm going to toss some fuel in here, and should be on its way. I got things cleaned up in here as well. I decided to put the old battery stay back in because it holds the LiPo in place. So it's better to have this in place than just freely flopping around in there. So that worked out. Ended up switching the screws, and I had to solder some stuff on here. Like I said, it's not pretty, but it's functional, and that's all right for me. So I don't know what the previous owner was thinking or wasn't thinking, but this is just absolutely unacceptable. So just as a proof of concept, plug it in. This was the main thing that was causing me to procrastinate, was because I knew the wiring was janky in here and I wasn't sure exactly how to do it. But thanks again to Joe, he helped me get over that and get this working proper. So like I said, just waiting for those batteries to charge, and then gonna throw some fuel in here, test it out. All right, got it fueled, and I attempted to start it on the 2S, but the 2S wasn't enough power to get the motor turned over. So I was just thinking, you know, maybe it needs a little more power, and that's exactly what it needed. So now we can go ahead and see about getting this first tank through it. Get things lined up. That's pretty good.
not going to mess with the endpoints or anything on here because I'm going to go ahead and get the GT5. So I'll figure out all the endpoints and electronic stuff after that. But for now, just to get the break-in started, go ahead and use this one. All right, let's see how this goes. Going to be a minute. That's really all I have time for today. Yeah, this is my first time using a bump box, so I had to learn a little bit. Sometimes this sticks, so I'm still just getting used to this. It's not state of the art, so, but we were successful. in fixing the bump box and getting this to start the break-in process. So I think that's a good point to stop here. Obviously we'll continue this break-in process. This is really the only thing I care to drive at this point, so we'll be getting this done soon, especially as the weather starts to get nicer and nicer. So thanks for tuning in, staying along with the process here. Like I said, I got this a couple years ago, and it's been collecting dust because I didn't really know where to start the approach. So huge shout out to Joe for getting me through the mental hurdle and procrastination here. We can start to look forward to seeing this racing against Joe's. I really only got this specifically to race with him because he was saying how much fun truggies were, so